after the New York Times reported that there was a draft executive order that would allow for torture by the U.S. government. It turns out that some of the top officials in Trump's administration were completely blindsided and unaware. Now, to be clear, it turns out that Trump's administration, Trump himself and his spokesperson says, no, this was not coming from the White House. We did not draft this executive order. So they're denying it, but Donald Trump has been very clear about the fact that he is in favor of torture and he does want our military to use torture as a form of enhanced interrogation. Now, with that all said, Mike Pompeo, the new CIA director under President Donald Trump, only learned about a draft executive action, paving the way for the CIA to reintroduce waterboarding and black site prisons through news reports. Politico reported that both Pompeo and Defense Secretary James Mattis were unaware of the draft order until the Times published its piece. So I think that's interesting. Do you believe Trump and Spicer when they say, no, it's not coming from the White House. We don't know who leaked that. We don't know what that is.
Of course I don't believe him. I saw Donald Trump on ABC yesterday tell me that he's in favor of waterboarding and torture. It's like, what, did they make it up? Did they roll tape on that? I know anything that he says later they will claim is fake news because it shouldn't be taken literally and there are alternative facts involved. But all that now we saw it with our own eyes. He said he was in favor of it. So of course there was a draft order. The New York Times didn't make that up. And even if they did, I'm not even going to get into even if that's absurd talk, right? If you're a Trump supporter, didn't you applaud him yesterday when he told David Muir that he was in favor of those extreme tactics? So, I mean, I can't see how they could possibly deny it.
I know, it's kind of incredible. But another thing to keep in mind, though, and this is honestly my favorite part of the story, is how much divide there is in Congress when it comes to this issue, right? So when you hear something like torture, waterboarding, some of the tactics that were used under the Bush administration, you think you're not going to have members of the GOP speak out against this and speak out aggressively against it. But there are actually a number of senators that are saying, no, we under no circumstance will do this form of enhanced interrogation. John McCain has been the most vocal, and I actually give him a lot of credit for this. He said, and I quote, "The president can sign whatever executive orders he likes, but the law is the law. We are not bringing back torture in the United States of America." Now, John McCain was a victim of torture himself for years when he was a prisoner of war. And so he understands that it doesn't work. It's a terrible idea. It breaks international laws. And so I, again, applaud him for making that statement. Now, Senator John Thune also made a similar statement. He says, with respect to torture, that's banned. The Army Field Manual makes that very clear, and the law now is tied to the Army Field Manual. And by the way, let me be clear about something. Donald Trump can't unilaterally call for torture, right? You need Congress to vote on it. Now, Trump is crazy, and it doesn't seem like he cares much about laws, so I guess he could do things unilaterally and not really face any consequences for it.
Well, no, but that's the thing. He might face consequences for it. So if you break the law, you could get impeached if you actually had political opponents who cared or even allies who cared about the rule of law. So let me explain the background, and then I'm going to tell you why this story is super important for two different reasons. So when Obama first came in, he had promised that he was going to end the era of torture and waterboarding, and he did. He signed an executive order right away. Now, for the right-wing critics of Obama and his executive orders, I know you all thought it was unconstitutional. Now, at the same time, you love Trump's executive orders. Yeah. Just let that irony sink in for a second. But that's okay, because that's not relevant anymore, because in 2015, they took that order and they made an amendment to a defense authorization bill, so it's now law. Congress voted on it. It went through official channels. It is the law of the land. When we are doing interrogation, we must follow the Army Field Manual, which prohibits torture and waterboarding, and we must allow the Red Cross to inspect the detainees. Now, Trump has also said that he will apparently, according to the story that we're talking about here, not allow the Red Cross to examine detainees. Now, the only reason you won't let the Red Cross examine them is because you have tortured them or you've done something horrific to them. So now, Trump's very clear. He's on the record. He just said it yesterday in a national interview, right? Now, reason number one why this is a very important story is he's so unprepared. It's frightening because any rational politician would think, okay, what did Pompeo and Sessions as well, by the way, the Attorney General, he's on the record. He said during his confirmation proceedings, because remember, he's going to be the top lawyer in the country, right? The head of the Justice Department. He said that 2015 law that I referenced, quote, makes it absolutely improper and illegal to use waterboarding or any other form of torture. That's the incoming Attorney General Jeff Sessions who said that just a couple of days ago, right? So a prepared president would have checked, hey, what did Sessions promise? What did Mattis, my defense secretary, promise? What did Pompeo, the CIA director, promise? Oh, in their confirmation proceedings, they all definitively said on the record that they would not do torture or waterboarding.
Right.
So now, if you're going to throw a curveball, you're going to do a draft memo, or you're going to go on ABC and say, well, screw that, I am going to do torture. You would check with them first, and you would tell them, look, here's the messaging we're going to do from now on. Now, I know I put you in a tough spot because you just said publicly and on the record that you wouldn't do it, but I'm the president and I want to do torture. And then you would prepare how to handle that.
Right.
But he's a clown. He doesn't do any homework. He's Joffrey. So he's like, I don't know, I want to do torture. Why won't they let me do torture? I want to do torture.
Okay, so I have some more information on why he's so incredibly unprepared. So there was a report that got published recently about high-level meetings among officials in the administration and how Donald Trump will literally dip out of those meetings because he's got to call Joe Scarborough of Morning Joe. He's obsessed with cable news. He's obsessed, right? And so I don't know what kind of conversations they're having. I think it's super weird that those conversations are taking place. I think it's very dangerous for the president to, skip out on or leave high-level meetings like that where he would be briefed on things that are important, on situations where he should be working together with the same individuals that he nominated in these high-level positions.
Now, he's in a lot of trouble, man. Can you really go 4 years without, preparing anything when you're the most powerful man on earth? Can you blunder into one decision after another without checking with anybody, without doing your homework? It is going to be an epic disaster. So that leads to point number 2 as to why this story is so important. Because now, for the first time, we see Republican pushback. Now, I know that he prefers people who weren't captured. That's a famous line he said about John McCain. But John McCain is very well respected in Congress, especially among his Republican colleagues, and especially on this issue. So when John McCain says, no, I don't care what Donald Trump says, we are not going to authorize torture, there is a lot of weight to that. Okay, that's not just a flippant comment, and it's not just a liberal member that you could roll over and have the Republicans go, I don't care, man, we got rid of the filibuster, whatever, right? All these things. No. He's part of the Republican Party and instrumental in it. And when the number 3 guy in the party says, no, it's settled law, we're done with it. Okay, now we're at loggerheads. And so Democratic opinion, you can say that's not like your opinion, man. Republican opinion, they control Congress. Mm-hmm. So now, but that doesn't mean that we know which direction this is going to go and how it's going to end. But we're going to find out partly because of this issue. So if the John Thunes of the world eventually turn around and go, sorry, dear leader, and they submit to Trump, well then, oh boy, there are no brakes in the car, and we are going to careen out of control, okay?
Yeah.
On the other hand, if they make a stand here and they say, Mr. President, I'm sorry, but that is the law, and we're going to follow the law, and if you'd like to propose a bill, we're happy to discuss it and debate it and vote on it. Well, then, okay, then you've got your first check on Donald Trump, which is a good thing for the country. And later, if he continues to go wildly out of control, could be the beginning of the end for him as more and more Republican votes line up against him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens. And quite honestly, my pessimistic side, which is a huge part of who I am when it comes to this issue, says that eventually members of Congress are going to realize just how powerful Donald Trump is in manipulating the conversation. Because think about it, right? So you have to think about the average American voter and the types of voters who went for someone like Donald Trump. And so think about how easy of a sell it is if you're Donald Trump. You just go to the American people and you tell them, oh, look at John McCain. He wants us to treat these terrorists fairly. He wants us to, treat them with kid gloves. Like, is that, he's so good at manipulating the conversation. So I feel like it might be a political risk for people like John McCain to do the right thing in this case.
Oh, no, it's definitely a political risk. For a while, John McCain was really sweating his own election in Arizona. That was also this year, or last year now, because he had said some things against Donald Trump and had that beef with him. And so the Republican voters like Trump. They like him a lot. So he had to kind of backpedal out of there. But now he doesn't face election for another 6 years. And by that time, Trump might be impeached 3 times over. But we don't know if that's going to happen. So what I'm saying is the resistance in Congress has begun. It might end quickly, and then, oh boy, he's going to run roughshod.
Yes.
Or it becomes real and multiplies. So that right there is an excellent indication of what the next 4 years, if it's 4 years, is going to be. Because today I was talking to a reporter, and they said, hey, you're famous for predictions. I was like, oh, am I? Good. Okay. And they're like, so go ahead, prediction man. Make a prediction about what happens to Trump. Well, that's the thing. You need facts before you make the prediction. So I have all the facts in the world about who Donald Trump is, but I don't know what the reaction is going to be. Are the Republicans going to bow their heads, or are they going to use him for all the tax cuts, for all the giveaways to the corporations, for the deregulation, and then when they're done with him, go, oh yeah, this crazy guy, we didn't mean it. And besides which, he's not really a Republican, and throw him aside.
Yeah.
So, and he is out of control, so they might be forced to do it. But if they do, they're going to pillage the government and pretend it was Trump, when in reality it's their donors that asked for it.
Right.
So that's the thing to look out for.
Right. Also, just keep Reek in mind, right? Think of Mitt Romney. Think of Nikki Haley. Think of all of the people think of Paul Ryan, all of the people that were adamantly against him, and then later on, they were monkeys giving Trump their bananas, you know?
No, that's it. The era of nicknames is on. I already like nicknames. I like fun and cool nicknames. But, a lot of people don't realize that when we did #LoserDonald, that we were mocking Donald Trump for coming up with goofy and overly simplistic nicknames. And they think like, oh, come on, Cenk, that's too simplistic. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's the point. Anyway, so from now on, he's Reek Romney.
Reek Romney. Oh,
okay.
Come on.
And it's Donald Joffrey Trump. And more nicknames to come. But Joffrey, watch yourself, man. If you get too many enemies, there's a purple future politically, maybe, but yet there's not enough data in yet. But this is not good news for Trump. This leans towards his days might be numbered. Also because he's so goddamn unstable. Once you become a member of the Young Turks, you're going to be thinking, Sarabies! TYTnetwork.com/join.